Hey, Richard Bryce here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm trying to turn my left-handed forehand into a weapon. Now, I'm naturally a right-handed player, but I had to stop playing a couple of years ago after a bad injury from a mountain bike crash. So for the last 2 years, I've been relearning to play left-handed. My goal is to become a 5.0 player and hopefully then go on and start competing on the Seniors ITF Tour. Now I want to show you how I'm working on my forehand because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what it takes to improve. In large part this is happening because of so many crazy YouTube videos. If you look around YouTube, you'll see countless videos claiming that we can knife the ball like Federer in 3 simple steps, and now obviously we've got to be able to hit a forehand like Alcaraz, and that only takes 5 simple steps. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the way that tennis works. If you want to become a better tennis player, you have to approach things much more systematically than that, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. At the start of my on-court session, I work on footwork for about 10 to 15 minutes. So my aim here is to continue the warm-up process that I started at home and to program in specific footwork patterns that I'm going to be using throughout the session. Footwork is one of those things that everyone struggles with it. They know they need to work on it, but very few people actually spend time doing it because as soon as they get on court, they start hitting balls straight away. And my belief is that is a massive mistake, because what you've got to understand is that before you can hit the ball, you have to get to it. And if you're not set up in the right position, the chances of you hitting a good clean shot on a consistent basis go down dramatically. So it's very worthwhile spending time programming in specific footwork patterns. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. And what I'm really focusing on is loading off my left leg, so kind of working on different variations of the open stance. This is something that I struggled with initially because I'd never really done it as a right-handed player. Obviously I'm very strong off my right leg, as you know, using my right-handed forehand, and as a right-hander with a one-handed backhand I was stepping into the ball a lot, but I'd done very little work using my left leg as the outside leg. So that's something that I've had to work at a lot, and it's starting to feel a lot more natural, and it's an important piece for me to be able to develop my forehand into a weapon. The final part of my warm-up was visual activation exercises. So I'm doing a near-far switch to start. This trains something called accommodation, which is your ability to change the length of distance that you're focusing at. So it's going to be a really important visual skill in tennis. I'm focusing on a pen tip that's right in between my eyes up close, and then I'm switching and I'm looking at the number that's at the back of the court, and I'm doing it with head neutral, head left and head right. The second drill that I'm working on here is a combined near-far switch and vestibular activation drill, and I'm working specifically on my right side to address an ongoing issue that I've been dealing with from some of the concussions that I had in the past. So I start off just by doing it with my left eye, then I switch and work on both eyes together. And again, the reason that I'm doing this is because I've got different deficits within my left eye, so I have to spend a little bit more time focusing on that. Next, I move on to mini tennis, and I don't consider this part of the warm-up, I consider this an important part of the training session. Mini tennis is a fantastic training tool for working on your footwork, for working on your spacing, and for working on your timing. It's actually something that a lot of lower level players struggle with. When you play with 4.0 players and below, even a lot of 4.5 players really struggle to keep a nice casual topspin rally going in the service boxes because their timing is off, so they make up for poor timing with racket head speed and they end up hitting the ball really hard. So I think it is fantastic for training your timing. So as you can see, I've got 2 targets set up, so I'm always going to be thinking about aiming towards the target, and I'm alternating between hitting towards the forehand and backhand side. And I work on 3 different feed progressions. For the first set of feeds, I'm moving out to the forehand. For the next set of feeds, I'm working on alternating between inside out and inside in forehands. And then in the final set of feeds, I've got the machine set to random, so it's just feeding me alternate, and if the ball goes to my forehand, I'm hitting it cross court. If it moves more to my backhand side, then I'm hitting the inside out forehand. But for all of the different drills, I'm just really focusing on being as smooth as I can, trying to land, be as light on my feet as possible, trying to set up the right spacing from the ball, and trying to be as efficient as I can with my timing. Obviously, I'm also trying to keep my head still through contact. I think mini tennis is a fantastic time to really program your brain to be able to do that as well. and then I move to the back of the court. Now, when I talk about turning my forehand into a weapon, you probably think that I'm going to be working on trying to hit the ball as hard as I can, but I'm not. What you've got to understand is that the biggest weapon in tennis is consistency. And my initial goal is to try and win through the 4.5 stage so I can become a 5.0 player. And at the 4.0 level, you do not need to hit the ball hard. You just need to be consistent, especially if you can develop a heavy ball. And that's exactly what I'm working on here. I just want to be able to hit a consistent, heavy rally ball so that it's got a decent amount of topspin. And if I can do this 5 or 6 times, hitting a decent target in the corner, considering this is going to be my opponent's backhand, that's enough to break down pretty much any 4.5. If you've then got the ability to take that shot down the line when you need to, that's really going to allow me to dominate most 4.5 players, and that's the goal. So in terms of what I'm actually working on, my main focus is trying to be as light as I can on my toes and try and set up the right distance from the ball. It's again something I've had to work really hard on as a left-handed player, because with my right hand I've got a single-handed backhand, so I tend to set up much closer to the ball. So I'm now having to kind of reprogram my brain to think about it. Okay, when it's on the left side of my body, I need to be a little bit further away so that I can hit out at the ball and have enough space to hit my forehand. Now, something I want to point out here, and again this kind of goes towards the YouTube videos that you see, people have got this obsession with talking about the perfect forehand. Well, I've got a high quality ball machine and I've got the same type of ball being fed to me. In theory it's supposed to be going into the same spot, but you can see there's actually quite a lot of variation. Some of them are landing on the service line, some of them are landing halfway between the service line and the baseline, some of them I'm having to move in a little bit, some of them I'm having to move out a little bit. So there is no perfect forehand. You have to have the ability to adapt to the variety of different balls that you're dealing with. And again, that's the exact thing that I'm working on at the moment. All I'm thinking about throughout this entire practice session is trying to read where the ball's going as quickly as possible, trying to be as light as I can when I land from my split step, trying to move as efficiently as possible to the ball, and trying to set up the right distance from the ball. At the moment, all these things are conscious because I'm relatively new to playing left-handed, but after enough repetitions, hopefully it should become automated, and at that point I'll have a level of consistency that's going to allow me to dominate at the 4.5 level. So if we talk about the setup, as you can see, I'm kind of working on a specific situation. I'm working as if I'm in my forehand corner and I'm hitting to my opponent, if they're a right-handed player, into their backhand corner. So I haven't got the ball machine set up in the center of the court. I've got it set up off center, which is where I'm going to be receiving from. And again, my position reflects that. Because I'm aiming into the corner, I'm not going to be moving back to the center every time. This is the position that I'm going to recover to. Now, the first feed that I was dealing with was a little bit easier, didn't have to move. This is a little bit more of a wide angle ball, so now I'm having to move out to the wide ball to work on a little bit of different footwork pattern. But the focus is exactly the same, trying to land as lightly as I can on my toes, trying to efficiently transition into that first ball, step across myself, and then use a mogul step loading off my left leg. Again, really paying attention to that spacing, make sure that I don't get too close, or what I'm actually saying to myself is I need to keep my distance from the ball. And then the final progression that I worked on in this session was the inside out forehand. Now I've taken a little bit of pace off the ball, so it's dropping a little bit shorter. I've also given it more height, so it's bouncing up a little bit more. And obviously the idea here is I've been working on that good, consistent, deep, heavy cross-court forehand. Hopefully I'm going to be pushing my opponent back on their backhand. They're going to give me a weaker ball. I'm going to step around, so step in onto the inside out forehand and play the ball to the open court. Now again, notice here, I'm not trying to hit with too much power. I don't need to crush this ball. If I hit a heavy ball into the corner, I've got a big margin for error, plenty of consistency, plenty of height over the net. That's going to be enough to absolutely dominate people. What I found when I was playing right-handed is if you hit the ball hard into someone's forehand, a lot of people are actually pretty good at coming across and hitting a running forehand from that. But if you hit this heavier ball with a bit more spin that bounces up, that's a shot that a lot of people really struggle with. So that's what I'm working on. But although it's a different ball that I'm dealing with, my focus remains exactly the same. All I'm working on is trying to be as light on my toes when I land from my split step, trying to efficiently move to set up in position, and trying to make sure that I've got my distance and I'm far enough away from the ball so that I can hit out and use efficient biomechanics. But my focus isn't on the biomechanics, it's still on the preparation at this stage. So that's how I'm working on things on court, and if you've got any questions about that, leave them down in the comments section. But that's actually the least important part of how I work on improving my tennis game. The reason I've been able to improve my left hand so quickly is because every day I try and become a better tennis athlete. Because if you want to be a better tennis player, you have to become a better tennis athlete. So I do a lot of work off the court to improve how my body functions so that I can play a higher level of tennis. And that always starts with vision, because everything that you do on court is based on how well you can see. At the start, you saw me doing a couple of different visual activation drills, but I work on a lot of other vision training to improve how my system functions. Now, at the moment, my visual system already functions at a 5-low or above level. So for my first goal, my visual system's already functioning well enough. In the past, it didn't. When I was younger, I used to have massive problems with ball tracking and with judging distance. So I always had issues with my right hand, getting too close to the ball and hitting with good timing. But I fixed those before I started playing left-handed. So in terms of my initial goal, I'm okay with vision training, but I want to try and compete on the seniors ITF tour, and a lot of the players that are playing on that tour were former professional players or players that played challengers and just much higher level players than me. So that means that they're more skillful, which means if I want to have a chance of competing with them, I have to become a better tennis athlete. I have to improve my skill level, because they're going to be practicing, I'm practicing. It's unlikely that I'm suddenly going to start practicing in a better way than these guys who used to be professional. So I have to raise my skill level to match them. So that's why I focus on vision training. And one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is developing a VR training program to help with my own vision training and to help with the players that I work with. The next thing I focus on to try and become a better tennis athlete is improving my coordination, because alongside vision, coordination is what makes up your skill level. It's eye to foot and eye to hand coordination. Now, when I first started playing left-handed, I had coordination deficits on the left side of my body, so I spent a lot of time working trying to correct those issues. I've mostly done that now. I've still got a little bit of a coordination deficit on my left leg, so I'm working on a number of drills to try and fix that problem, because that's going to be really important for my footwork. It's also going to be really important for what I was working on in the video, which is being able to drive and load through my left leg properly. And then the final thing that I kind of really focus on working on is flexibility. This was always my weakest thing when I was younger. So growing up, I was really inflexible, and that basically limited me on the tennis court in a couple of main ways. It made me slow moving sideways, so running forwards, getting to drop shots, I was really quick, but moving laterally, I was a little bit slow because my hips weren't open enough to allow me to do that. And that meant if I play against someone that hits with real power, I kind of struggle to move across the baseline. And I was also too easy to pass at the net for the same reason, because after you split step to then quickly move to the side, you need flexible hips. But it was also a little bit more than that. It was just about being restricted in terms of my biomechanics. So in terms of hitting that open stance forehand, some of those wide balls, especially when it's lower, you need tremendous hip flexibility. And if you watch professional tennis players, they're all incredibly flexible. So one of the most important things that I work on is my hip flexibility to continue to hopefully allow me to play at a higher level. So as I keep on working on my left hand, keep on working on flexibility, that should really allow me to kind of bridge some of the gap between where I am now and the players that I want to be competing against. So if you want to become a better player, you need to approach your tennis in the same way. You need to do logical work on court, focusing on the foundational components, and you need to try and become a better tennis athlete, because you can only play tennis at the level your body will allow. So if you're watching lots of videos on how the pros hit it and stuff like that, the only way you're going to stand the chance of hitting with those techniques in the way that you want is to improve how your body functions. And if you would like help with that, this is what I help tennis players to do. I teach players how to use neuroathletic training and cutting edge training methods to improve their skill level, to improve their vision so that they can anticipate better, react faster, judge distance, time the ball better, how to improve their coordination so they can improve their technique and develop greater control on their shots, and how to improve every other physical attribute that you need to become a better tennis player. If you'd like to learn more about that, I've created a free training that's going to go into a lot more detail about how it all works, and it's also going to talk about my program and how that side of things works. So I'll place a link in the description to this free training. I'll place a link up there so that you can check that out if you would like to learn how you can use neuroathletic training to become a better tennis player. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions or comments about anything that I've talked about today, leave them down below. If you are looking for another YouTube video to watch right now, I highly recommend this video because it's going to show you a couple of assessments that you can do for your visual system to start to figure out some of the things that are holding you back potentially, and some of the things that you can do to start improving your game right now.